Well, congratulations to everybody on having a ticket to the hottest event in town today. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Chamber of Commerce's Dignitary Discussions event, presented by our great partners, Cook Medical and Indiana University. I'm Eric Spoonmore, President of the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce, and very glad to be here today with all of you at the Monroe Convention Center. Yes, our beautiful local convention center that's going to become even more beautiful and useful to the community when we expand this place with a 66,000 square foot expansion of this building in just a few months from now. It's going to be great for business. It'll be great for business. It's going to be great for our community by holding even bigger and better civic events like this one today. And so we are delighted to host United States Senator Todd Young here today in Bloomington. On behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and our board of directors, we're honored that each of you could be here for this very special and informative event. We're especially grateful to Senator Young for taking the time to visit the Chamber and share his insights with us today. So before we get started with the program, at this time I'd like to invite everyone who is able to please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So as many of you know, the Chamber is deeply involved in advocacy and public policy, and I'm proud of the relationships we have established with our local, state, and federal elected partners. We've hosted U.S. Representative Aaron Hochin, Governor Eric Holcomb, former Senator and now Governor Mike Braun, and today we are fortunate to have United States Senator Todd Young join us. Our advocacy team has been very busy and just doing a great job of building these important relationships for our business community. Our Dignitary Discussions event is one of many ways the Chamber provides opportunities for our members in the community to engage in dialogue with our elected officials and gain a deeper insight into the political and public policy processes in Washington. Senator Young's experience in Congress will provide an inside look at what's happening in Washington and how that affects us here at home. After some remarks from our presenting sponsors, we'll have a Q&A with the Senator, and we'll have Bloomington's own Pete Yonkman moderating the conversation. The Chamber is fortunate to have the support of so many of our community businesses. Our program lists our sponsors, but we'd like to thank you personally as well. Simply put, the Chamber cannot do any of the impactful work we do in this community without the generosity of our members and sponsors. Our extraordinary gratitude goes out to all the following organizations that made this event possible today through their support of the Chamber: Cook Medical, Indiana University, the Community Foundation of Bloomington and Monroe County, along with the Regional Opportunity Initiatives, Fourth Phase Technology, Smithville Communications, the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation, the City of Bloomington, Comcast Business Class, Duke Energy, Hoosier Energy, IU Health, MSI Security, Nature's Way Landscaping Company, Old National Bank, and Rogers Group, Inc. and Rogers Group Investments, Inc. Please give our sponsors a big round of applause for their support. A terrific list of sponsors there. Thank you. Our community is also fortunate to have the leadership of many individuals who work on behalf of our citizens to make Bloomington and Monroe County the wonderful community it is. Our elected officials, our local elected officials joining us in the audience today our Town of Ellettsville Clerk Treasurer Noel Conyer, Bloomington City Council Member at Large Isak Asare, and City of Bloomington Mayor Carrie Thompson. Let's give a round of applause to all. Thank you to all of our local officials here in attendance today. Appreciate you joining us. And I also want to recognize our Board of Directors, many of which are in attendance today. The Chamber's Board of Directors is made up of 17 leaders in the community that provide strategic oversight and guidance to the Chamber. Joining us today are the following board members: Scott Shishman, Bloomington Market President, Old National Bank. Mr. Shishman also serves as the chair of the Board of Directors for the Chamber of Commerce. Dan Peterson, Vice President for Industry and Government Affairs at Cook Group. Rachel McAfee, Executive Director of Community Engagement at Indiana University. Amy Ketchum, President at TASIS. Denzel Ross, President for IU Health South Region. John Hauser, Vice President of Operations with Boston Scientific. David Ferguson, Partner at Ferguson Law. Eric Coyne, Chancellor at Ivy Tech's Bloomington's campus. And John Fernandez, Vice President of Innovation and Strategic Partnerships and Interim Executive Director at the Mill. Please join me in giving the Board of Directors a round of applause. Thank you. Okay, I'm now pleased to welcome Pete Yonkman, our moderator for today's discussion with Senator Young. Mr. Yonkman is the president of Cook Medical, family-owned company. We are very fortunate to have headquartered right here in Bloomington, Indiana, with over 10,000 employees worldwide. As perhaps, yes. As perhaps the most recognized business leader in Bloomington, Pete is widely known throughout the state of Indiana and beyond as an innovative and strategic leader in the life sciences industry, and is acclaimed for his commitment to ethical leadership and workforce development initiatives. Pete has championed initiatives like the My Cook Pathway and 4060 to expand educational and career opportunities in Indiana. He's a strong advocate for long-term business strategies that prioritize people, patients, and our communities. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming Pete Yonkman to the stage as our moderator for today's event. And also a special thank you again to the Cook Medical Organization for being a presenting sponsor for today's program. So as I mentioned, Pete will be moderating our Q&A with Senator Young here in just a few moments. If you have questions for Senator Young, there's a QR code on this lectern screen in front of me here. The QR code is also in your programs. You can scan the code with your phone, giving you an easy way to submit your questions to the moderator. Pete's going to do his best to get to the questions within the limited amount of time we have. He's got his iPad ready to go there. If we experience any technical difficulties with the QR code, we also have some forms there on your tables. You can fill those cards out and hold it up. A staff member will come and collect those and hand it over to Pete. Okay. So now it's my great honor to introduce another visionary leader in our community and state who's shaping the future of higher education in Indiana and beyond. Pamela Whitten is the 19th president of Indiana University, having taken office in 2021. Under her leadership, IU has made bold strides to foster student success through increased affordability, improved graduation rates, and enhanced mental health support across all campuses. She is focused on recruiting world-class faculty, expanding high-impact research, and deepening IU's contributions to the cultural and economic vitality of our state, especially here in Bloomington and throughout South Central Indiana. These priorities are central to the IU 2030 strategic plan, which President Whitten has championed with clarity and purpose. Prior to joining IU, President Whitten held key leadership roles at Michigan State University, the University of Georgia, and served as president of Kennesaw State University. Please join me in welcoming the president of Indiana University, Pam Whitten.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. As Eric just said, I actually started at IU in July of 21, so I've been here almost 4 years. And I'm still so delighted that I wake up some mornings still feeling so grateful and lucky to get to live and work in Bloomington, Indiana. Really, I think the most wonderful town in America. And so I hope you all still feel that way too. So certainly I want to thank Eric for his leadership of the Chamber, and all of us at Indiana University appreciate the greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce and all that you do to help the business sector thrive, and I know we're ambitious together for so much growth, continued growth in Bloomington. So it's great to be here with so many friends of our university. Let me see who's really well educated. If you have an IU degree, raise your hand. Oh, wow. Smart group of people. So it's an exciting time for IU Bloomington. Our campus really continues to be at the forefront of evolving to meet the needs of today's students as well as for the state of Indiana. And so next month in May, which is just such a wonderful, happy time on our campus and across IU, we're going to award 11,019 degrees to 10,684 students in Bloomington. Now, you can do the math. That means we have some students so smart they're getting double degrees at the university as well. It's going to be the largest graduating class in the history of IU Bloomington. So you guys get ready for some partying that weekend across Bloomington. They're going to be part of a class of 25 that, if we look across the whole state of Indiana at all of our campuses, Indianapolis, regionals, et cetera, we're going to have 20,075 graduates from Indiana University across the state of Indiana. So it's nice to know that we're doing our part for the state in that area. We're also delighted that the things that we're doing, the changes we're making, the investments that we're putting forward at Indiana University in Bloomington are being recognized by others as making this campus a place, a destiny for so many students to want to come. So the applications that we've had for fall 2025 show really tremendous increase again. So as of April 8th of this month, we had in Bloomington 75,714 people apply to enter the freshman class at IU Bloomington. And in 2021, when I started, we had 47,861 students apply in the freshman class. So that is a 58% increase in 4 years of people who want to come study at Indiana University in Bloomington. We are about to welcome David Reingold, who some of you will remember who are from Bloomington for a long time. He was a faculty member and an administrator here in Bloomington for 18 years, and he's going to join us as the chancellor in our Bloomington campus. And David's going to be responsible for finance and administration, community engagement, so you'll see a lot of him, enrollment management, student life, the campus's research and creative activities as well. And I'm very confident that David's visionary leadership is really going to add to the bandwidth that we need for the leadership that we seek and the opportunities we seek for our campus. And of course, he's going to be joining our tremendous provost, Rahul Shrivastava, as the provost at the university as well. And so we're going to have a dynamite leadership team in Bloomington between Rahul and David as well. We're also launching long overdue renovations of our research labs to help us both attract as well as retain researchers whose work really transforms lives and drives economic growth as well. And so we have a lot of Bloomington labs that haven't been renovated in more than 30 years. I mean, we have labs that you literally can put your foot through the floor. It's been that long since they've been renovated. So a lot of good work in that area, particularly in spaces like chemistry and biology as well. And so we're going to do this. It's already started. It's going to give us a tremendous edge to recruiting top faculty and students to IU and to really advancing cutting edge research on the most pressing issues of today as well. Some of you were with us last August. I can't believe it's already been that long, when we celebrated the $16 million grant from the Lilly Endowment that was awarded to IU to accelerate development of Bloomington's trade districts. This initiative, which is underway, will transform the trades district into a thriving hub for innovation, economic development, and community engagement as well. We're also enhancing our national presence, if you will, and expanding opportunities for our students and our faculty and our staff with a new 8-story facility in Washington, D.C. So where's Senator Young? He's got to be that way. Oh, there he is. Oh, so Senator, we're going to give you a nice Hoosier home in Washington as well to come work in and visit as well. So this property that we recently acquired from the foundation is in a fabulous location. It's on DuPont Circle, and it's going to support our academic and our research and our public service missions. It's going to house students in IU's Washington-based programs. So we're renovating the facility now, and we're basically taking a couple of floors and making them residence halls, so students have a place to come live. And then there are multiple floors of classrooms and conference room and office space and reception space. So Washington, D.C. better get ready, because Hoosiers are about to come take over the town. Just last week, we announced that IU in Bloomington is making a $75 million investment to expand our engineering offerings at IU Bloomington. Yes, Indiana University can do outstanding engineering as well in the state of Indiana. We're going to have new programs in emerging areas like computer engineering, robotics, bioengineering, electrical engineering, biomedical engineering. So get ready for that investment and what it's going to bring to the city of Bloomington as well. And these are important areas because they're going to prepare our students for high-paying jobs while also creating the talent pipeline that we really need in our state to fuel innovative and economic growth in Indiana as well. We're also investing more than $111 million to advance national leadership in microelectronics and nanotechnology through IU. So we are launching new degree programs that have been approved and are now starting in microelectronics design, nanofabrication, and related fields to meet the needs of growing industries and support Indiana's aspiration as a tech hub destination. And this investment is also going to really bolster Indiana's growing microelectronics sector. We think it's going to drive talent development, and it's going to respond to critical defense needs as well. It also allows IU to support the opportunities presented by the CHIPS and Sciences Act, which was, of course, introduced and championed by today's featured dignitary. So thank you for launching that and giving us the opportunity to move in that space. So now I'm going to transition and take just a moment and formally introduce our guest today, Senator Young. I have to say, if my 6-year-old grandson were here, he would say, this guy is a dude, okay? So in 1990, he enlisted in the Navy and later graduated from the United States Naval Academy with honors. Senator Young was then served in the Marine Corps as a rifle platoon commander and naval intelligence officer. And while leading a recruiting effort in Chicago and Northwest Indiana in his spare time, he earned an MBA from the University of Chicago. In 2000, he was honorably discharged from the Navy as a captain. He spent a year abroad earning a master's from the School of Advanced Study in London before returning to the United States to work for the Heritage Foundation and later as a legislative assistant for energy policy for Senator Richard Lugar. In 2003, he returned home to Indiana and earned his JD from IU's McKinney School of Law. In 2010, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, where he represented Indiana's 9th Congressional District. In 2016, he was elected to the U.S. Senate and formerly a seat that was formerly held by another alumnus of IU McKinney School of Law, Dan Coates. He was reelected to the Senate in 2022. And as a senator, he has developed a reputation as a bipartisan problem solver on issues like growing the economy and expanding affordable housing options for all Hoosiers, supporting Indiana's veterans, and harnessing the potential of artificial intelligence. Senator Young has worked toward solutions to many of the biggest issues that are facing Hoosiers' family. He currently serves on the Senate committees on commerce, science, and transportation, finance, small business and entrepreneurship, and intelligence. He also chaired the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotech, which issued its final report just last week with strategic recommendations to guide present and future national biotechnology efforts. As you know, Senator Young introduced and championed the bipartisan CHIPS and Sciences Act to help ensure America's global leadership role in science and technology. And vital to America's economic and national security, the law is bringing semiconductor production back to the U.S. to shore up our supply chain and to ensure that America is no longer dependent on other nations for these critical chips. Following his remarks, Senator Young is going to take part in a moderated discussion, and I just want to take a moment and send a personal heartfelt thanks to the Senator. I can think of no better partner in terms of the work that we're trying to do together and how you make yourself so available for all the things that we need and we need to discuss and we need help with. So thank you so much for all that you do for Indiana University. All right, let's welcome Senator Todd Young to the stage.
Great to be with you, Pete.
Good to see you again.
Let's hear it for President Whitten. I mean, amazing leadership. She just touched the surface of some of the initiatives she's helped launch here at Indiana University, and she's really taken it to the next level. I know that we have high hopes that Indiana University can see some of the opportunities with this emerging biotech initiative that she referenced, and she is making that possible by positioning the university for success. So big fan of Bloomington, Indiana, and Indiana University. We just got to keep the football team going. So that's my big
basketball
focus.
too. Don't forget about basketball.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking the time to do this conversation.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'll tell you what, by the number of questions that we have here, it's clear that people are curious about a lot of different things. So I'm going to try and put them into categories.
Sure.
If that works. So let's start with one of the biggest tariffs. And I want to ask that question in sort of a specific way. I'm going to be transparent here in a way that I probably wouldn't be normally in a situation like this. But
It
I want
can
to
be dangerous, I'm told. So.
Yeah. Well, I want to give you an example. I want to give you our example because I think it's not just an example for us, but I think it affects a lot of business the same way. All right. So if you look at our business, Cook, we manufacture 60% of our products in the United States today. The rest is in Europe and Australia. Our industry standard is that 70% in medical devices are manufactured in South America, China, and Vietnam. Okay, so we're flipped. So we're primarily a U.S.-based manufacturing company, which I think the idea is here, right? We want to bring manufacturing jobs. We want to promote that. But the net effect of the tariffs is, so if you look at China, we manufacture our products in the United States to sell to China. We don't manufacture anything. All we're doing is selling there, which is what I think we want. The rest of the industry is manufacturing in South America and selling to China. So we are stuck with this dual sort of hit of not only the tariffs, but the tariffs in China, but our competitors are now able to sell freely into China without any tariffs. And they're growing their jobs in South America to take on that second biggest market. So we are hit with losing the market share in China, along with, for us, about $175 million in additional tariffs a year. Now, we're a $2.5 billion company, so you can do the math, right? So we already are what I think this administration wants the world to be, is a U.S.-based manufacturer.
Yes.
But we're being punished twice. Help me make sense of that.
Yeah. So listen, there are a lot of reasons as someone who's studied economics and has long believed that trade is important to all of our people, especially though here in the heartland, the most manufacturing intensive state in the country, a major ag producer. We rely extensively on access to foreign markets and conversely on many of the inputs for our economy, for manufactured goods. So we benefit from this order net in a pretty extensive way. But President Trump's not wrong that there have been violations of the rules of the economic game, so to speak. China, for a long period of time in particular, has ripped off our intellectual property. They've dumped commodities and other products into our market. And you could go on and on. They're economically coercive behavior, and someone had to respond to this, and President Trump campaigned on this platform of finally taking action, even if that action was disruptive. So that's one reason one could imagine affixing tariffs. Another reason might be a lack of cooperation on issues unrelated to trade or even economics. For example, if the government of Mexico, we feel, is not cooperating sufficiently on fentanyl trafficking and prohibiting those sorts of poisons from entering our country, that might be a rationale. It's actually been cited by the administration for increasing levies on inputs and on their exports and so forth. Not investing in one's own military pursuant to shared treaty obligations. Think of the NATO treaty. The Europeans have consistently failed to do so. So this has been cited from time to time as one of the reasons for tariff policy. The need to reshore. Reshore, let's make this easy. I'll identify something I agree with. The need to reshore particular goods and inputs that are essential to our national security. Think semiconductors, think cranes, the sorts of advanced cranes that are used in our ports. Think ships. So you could imagine trying to incentivize more production here through tariff policy to ensure we bring more strategically national security relevant manufacturing to the United States. The complications exist, and this is where I've consistently encouraged the administration to bring clarity. What is the rationale for each individual country? What does success look like so they have some ability to come into a position of better behavior if the intention isn't to leave them on forever for revenue purposes, but instead to change the behavior of our trade counterparties. And then presumably, if you put forward on paper, in a documented, organized fashion, where you want to end up and the rationale for tariffs on particular countries, presumably there aren't 5 or 6 different reasons that change day to day based on whatever member of the administration is speaking. So I want more certainty. I want more clarity. And my preference would be, but I was an elected president, right? My preference would be is to affix tariffs in a more targeted, sort of deliberate way on a temporary basis with the intention of resetting trade relations and getting back to normal. And so, in the area of biotech, for example, the Europeans have. They've been ripping us off. Think of ag bioscience. They prohibit what they call, still disparagingly think of as frankenfood, from coming into their markets. Well, I interpret most of that as anti-competitive behavior. They cannot compete with Hoosier producers. We are too productive. We are too efficient. And they just can't compete. So they have these tariff and non-tariff barriers to protect, I get it, I'm in politics, to protect discrete and vocal political interests in their countries. And President Trump is attempting to create some leverage, and boy, he's done that. He's good at creating leverage. Now I think the next step will be to pocket some of the wins, some of the concessions that are already being made from Vietnam to the EU to others, and then attempt to reset trade relations in a predictable way.
So I think that, I actually all those principles laid out, I agree with. And I think the problem is, as businesses, we're trying to understand how is this going to drive those results? So for example, for us, let's say we wanted to increase from 60% domestic production to 70. Okay, well, we need money to invest that. In order to do that, you have to have some certainty those tariffs are going to stick, which could be negotiated at any different time. They're executive order based, et cetera. So you're left with that. The other thing is, though, the money we had to invest in those plants is going out the door in the form of a tax and a tariff, and to the tune of $175 million. So how as businesses, understand the political side of it, but how should we be thinking about this? Is this a negotiation that we just need to wait for and try to live through? Or do we need to start planning differently and figure out this is going to be a whole new world business model?
I mean, I think you're making my point, Pete, and your line of inquiry is very well received. This is the same point I'm making to the administration. We need more clarity about what the end game is. We need more clarity about how long we expect this to last, et cetera. I think, it's amazing what our entrepreneurs and innovators and investors can do if you tell them where the bar is set, what their hurdle rate is, as the financiers call it, for a given investment. But you need to tell them that. You need to give them enough information so they can calculate, where to put their money, where to direct their energies, what markets to target, et cetera. But if your plan either is too vague or changes too frequently, you don't give market actors that clarity. And so I can play a constructive role. I can lament the perceived deficiencies in any plan. I think Biden had all kinds of deficiencies, and it's common for the minority party to publicly lament the deficiencies, right, for somebody who's not in your party. Or I can say, listen, I'm a senior Republican senator from the state of Indiana, and I agree with 90% of what the president's attempting to do. And maybe on that 10%, I discreetly talk to the president and share concerns and try and bring clarity to things. And then I can help all of you when you approach me and say, can you help on my priority, right? Because otherwise, you burn those bridges and you lose the ability to be effective. So I want to be effective. And I think that as it relates to trade, the best thing I can do to be effective is just to articulate. I mean, this is public, right? We got cameras in the back. I have to assume this is going to be, in the New York Times, is to articulate with more specificity and whatever level of vigor is required to administration officials, the urgency of bringing more clarity to this situation. Because I do think it's important.
Let me ask you this. You were one of the members that signed off on a bipartisan bill to try to change the way tariffs are administered, and trying to bring some of that authority back to the Congress. Maybe explain that and your thoughts on that issue.
Listen, I like to think I don't have a selective reading of the Constitution. I mean, we all operate to some extent through guided reasoning, but you try and discipline yourself not to have a confirmation bias and all the rest. And in the Constitution, it very clearly lays out that Congress is charged with overseeing foreign commerce and levying duties. So I signed on to a piece of legislation that would reclaim powers that previous generations of senators and members of Congress gave away. And I'll give a not too favorable impression as to why they gave tariff powers away to the president and all sorts of other powers, war-making powers, all kinds of things. You find in Congress, it's very easy to give speeches. It's a lot harder to take stands on difficult issues. Sometimes that involves hard votes. I don't know that I've taken many votes where I felt like the right policy outcome was hard. It's explaining it to your constituents that can be hard, right? So you don't want to be explaining all the time. And it's even harder to actually solve problems, to come up with solutions and solve problems. Hell of a lot easier just to see what the poll numbers show, give a speech consistent with the poll numbers, and then campaign on your membership in the tribe. And so because of this inescapable dynamic, and mixed together with a media environment in which all of us are inclined to just marinate in views we already agree with, kind of echo chambers, we have seen over the years members of Congress give away all kinds of powers to the president, and then this is a pet peeve of mine, right? Then come home and rail at unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats or unwise decisions of the president without trying to reclaim the powers that ought to be the people's powers operating through their elected representatives anyway. So like so many of the questions I get, they don't lend themselves to 30-second sound bites, but that's how I feel.
So you would advocate for the Congress having more authority over tariffs and how that would work?
Yeah.
And how would it work? So is it so the president can implement tariffs, but they have to be ratified by the Congress at some level?
That's how this piece of legislation works. And I think it's a good construct, right? You could imagine that the president needs power, authority, energy in the executive, right? Alexander Hamilton. He needs the power to act quickly and deliberately on matters of foreign policy. And tariffs are sort of an interesting animal. They're at once, as President Trump is demonstrating, they're an instrument of foreign policy, but also kind of a revenue measure. So you might want to give him the ability to act nimbly and boldly, but then after a month period of time, 2 months period of time, Congress must speak and affirm that it's wise or unwise. I think that's a good approach. You could speak earlier if there's a strong feeling one way or the other, but you must speak so that your constituents can hold you accountable too.
One of the other issues that I think as businesses, we sort of understand.
Speaking of accountability.
Yeah. You can hear there's people asking for accountability.
It's the sound of freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think you can,
I mean that.
As businesses, we sort of looked at the cost-cutting efforts in government and the modernization of government as a good thing. We all as businesses do that every day.
Yes.
Right? We have to looking at our systems efficient? Are they modern? Are they up to date? Are we serving our customers the right way? So I think all of us in business understand that need. How do you view the work of DOGE? And there's a lot of questions about that. How do you view their work? Is it effective? Is it doing what you hoped it would do?
Let me tell you, there aren't many things that I've encountered since I've been an elected official that are more popular among my constituents than DOGE. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Except in Bloomington.
Yeah.
So listen, it's not to say that the majority is right, right? I mean, this is why our system's awesome, and why you need leaders that, at least from time to time, speak with great candor. Here's my view. The American people need to earn trust back from their institutions. Our leaders have really failed from many of our educational institutions around the country to our corporate America and the C-suite to some leaders in organized religion to certainly government. And one of the ways we can do this, probably the most accessible and powerful way for regular Americans so we can earn trust back, is to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And this is literally the labor of this generation and future generations that's being thrown away by inefficiency and neglect and a failure of oversight and all the rest. So most of what Elon Musk is doing, I think, falls in that category. That said, I don't deny that some things have been delayed. Other things have been cut that should not be. And here again, I've been trying to, mediate between the feedback I'm getting from constituents about very important programs and unintentional outcomes, and the DOGE team. Elon commendably has given senators like myself his cell phone, and I get in touch with him. I carry your concerns. Not every day. He'd stop paying attention to Todd Young's text messages if I did. I asked Elon to come to a Republican Senate lunch. Elon came. He briefed all Republican senators. So I hope this calms down somewhat, right? So does Elon. So does Elon. He shared that with us. But I do think this is part of an effort to try and build, at least among a lot of the country, some trust back that we're being attentive to the waste. It's hard to do other important things when it comes to our budgetary situation, which I hope we have an opportunity to discuss today, if you're not going after the 250-year-old recipient of a Social Security check, right?
So let me ask a question. And we do hear, we have protesters and people who are asking questions. And let me ask, we'll get to the economic discussion, but I want to ask the question that I saw a lot of signs as I was coming in. I think people are concerned about cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. So how do you feel? That's a big issue for people. It's an important program. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, so my view is that if we're going to talk about science and the importance of following science, let's embrace all hard disciplines. How about math? And the math says that our federal budget is broken, that we keep running deficits and adding to the debt every year, and that this is not sustainable. That's what the math shows, the arithmetic. And here again, it's been an abdication of leadership. We can't keep lying about the state of these programs. They're not sustainable. Does it take bravery to speak facts to one's constituents? It shouldn't. Are we so weak as a civic culture? I don't believe we are. I think you want to be treated like adults, collectively. Whoever might watch this at home. And so I just prefer to treat people like adults and say, these programs aren't sustainable. Social Security, we know what the levers are. It's retirement age, it's the cost of living adjustment, it's eligibility, it's tax levels. And so let's put everything on the table. Let's make it sustainable so that we can have some measure of certainty about what our real policy options are. Otherwise, what are we doing in each of these different programs? We're borrowing money, which is to say we are taxing the future generations. We're debasing the value of the dollar. We are requiring future politicians at some point to have to increase various tax rates. You don't want to wait until the markets lose faith in your ability to pay back debts, though. There's been some conversation about this in recent days with a perceived change in risk premium on our treasury instruments. You don't want to get to a point where it's that on steroids. And then suddenly, in an emergency and ill-considered way, we have to do things very quickly. Guess who's going to get hurt? It's going to be like people on fixed incomes. It's going to be people of the most modest means who will get hurt in those scenarios as we hurt them. And so let's be responsible in each of these programs. So you ask my position, I favor bringing these programs into balance. I would personally would give special dispensation wherever one can persuade enough colleagues to do so for people of low income, people of modest means. But I'm not going to allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And for me, the good is starting to address our fiscal issues. Now, let me just, one quick last thing. The number we should look at, back to math here, is debt as a proportion of GDP, debt to GDP. So it's going to take a number of years for us continued accumulation of debt and hopefully coaxing more economic growth out of our system so that we can stabilize our debt and eventually start to pay it off over a period of time. It's analogous to what someone would do if their consumer finances were really out of whack, right? If you got a massive credit card debt, you don't try and pay it all back in 1 year. You don't stop eating. Hopefully, you continue to put gas in the car and all the rest. So that's how we need to think of this. And there are things that we're embarked on right now. Growth-oriented tax reform.
Can I ask a question about that?
Of course, regulatory reform. I would continue to open up foreign markets for trade. There are things we can do to coax more growth out of the economy too. Please, go ahead. Sorry.
So there is
I'm not intending to filibuster, but you ask the question of all questions about these programs. I think it's important, again, adults here, to contextualize what we're talking about.
Look, I genuinely appreciate that, and that's why I don't want to interrupt you, because too many of these things become placards, they become tweets, they become slogans that aren't a nuanced conversation. These situations are not going to be solved on a tweet or on X. Yeah. You're going to have long conversations, and we're not all going to agree about it. But I do appreciate that you are willing to sit here and ask the hard questions, answer the hard questions, and understand that not everybody's going to agree with it. At least we can talk about the reality of it. So I very much appreciate that.
Thanks.
Let's turn to the
and DOGE should not become an excuse not to deal with the hard stuff either. A lot of folks in my party want to do that. DOGE is going to save $2 trillion. Show me. And oh, by the way, if you claim it's going to save $2 trillion, are we still investing in higher ed? We still investing in research. We still investing in basic infrastructure. Are we investing in the future to grow that denominator? Because there are a lot of collective investments we make as well. And how are we going to build the military? Yeah. So I just want everyone to know I'm under no illusions about how many savings DOGE is going to yield us, and no one else should be either. That doesn't mean we shouldn't harvest the savings that make sense that are offered out of it. And so I'll take a look at whatever we have to memorialize through statute, going forward. Sorry,
Well,
go ahead.
I think all that's going to come together. All you just talked about is going to come together in this next budget bill. And so we're talking about massive tax cuts. We're talking about all the things you just talked about. But we're going to have to, at some point, balance this budget. What do you see as the benefits? Do you support the current bill? And do you think there are benefits?
The current budget?
Resolution.
Budget resolution? Yeah, listen, I support saving tons of money. That's all you have in a budget resolution. It's just, if you look at it, I didn't really understand this when I first ran for the U.S. House. The budget resolution's like a couple of numbers and it's an outline. So we haven't really gotten to the hard work, right? And so do I support saving $1 trillion in isolation? Yeah, I do. Let's see what sort of work, and then it gets harder. Then it gets a lot harder, right? Yeah. And I've never voted on a perfect bill. So
if you were to say my top 3 priorities coming out of that budget discussions, what do you want to see? Is it tax cuts? Is it investment in military? Is it investment in biosciences? What is the top 3 priorities for you?
So I don't want the largest tax increase in history. Everyone's thinking straw man argument right there. No, that's what we're headed for. If the current tax law, the 2017 so-called Trump tax cuts, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, were to expire, many of those provisions as we approach year's end, that would be the largest tax increase in American history. And one has to...
Although I got to tell you, it feels like the largest tax increase we've ever seen is the tariffs. So right now for us, it feels like the largest tax increase we've ever seen.
Yeah. So, so we're hearing this argument from folks, which is, well, we got to go even deeper on the tax cuts now. And I'm kind of like, oh, God. So we want to incentivize growth, savings, and investment in tax reform. That's what I see. Now, there are all kinds of other priorities, social priorities, that we try and advance, and civic priorities through the tax code. Affordable housing, that's social and civic. It's also economic, you could argue, but that's important. The redistribution of some income and wealth from some people to other people. We do this through the tax code, right? And so all these other things, but growth, savings, and investment are my lodestars, because if you have growth, if you have savings, you have investment, it solves a lot of other problems, okay? So the challenge is, how do you, at once, ensure the economy is growing amidst certain headwinds, macroeconomic headwinds, but not blow a massive hole in the debt, right? You still want to stabilize that stuff. You got a numerator and a denominator, debt to GDP. So, you're trying to strike a balance there, and doesn't lend itself to a formula. Trust me, I've asked the smartest economists in the world, and this is uncharacteristic, I found, of economists. They always have answers. They're so frequently wrong, but they always have answers. They don't even have an answer to this one, right? And so my view is, we got to look at the spending. We got to look at the mandatory programs. We got to coax savings out of that as much as we can, consistent with the political environment, whatever that will bear. Should we have young, healthy, adult males who are receiving Medicaid, single, should we require them to get into the labor force to help grow our economy and maybe not promise them forever Medicaid? Hell yeah, we should, right? So we can agree on that, at least as Republicans. So why don't we agree on that? And then can we find all kinds of other savings within the Medicaid program? There are gimmicks state use to drive up their reimbursement in various hospitals. And it's basically a corrupt bargain between a state legislature and governor's office and certain hospitals, just to pull more Medicaid money down into their state when they should be asking their own constituents for tax dollars to pay for some of their health care for poor people in their state. And so that's not, so like all this stuff that we ought to be able to agree on, let's go ahead and take care of that. If I get that, I'll be more generous on the tax reform. This is the leverage I'm using. If I don't get any cooperation on that, I'm going to be very stubborn on the tax stuff. So I'm sort of playing one dynamic off against the other. And so far it's worked. I feel like I've moved the conversation in a more fiscally responsible but still growth-friendly direction.
Yeah, and
you tell me if my approach is the wrong approach, because I am open to, but we're running out of options here. We're running out of options.
Yeah. So as somebody with a military background, you're probably as knowledgeable as anybody on the state of our military and the state of our readiness. The proposal is a significant increase, as I understand it, on military spending. Do you think that's a good idea? What is the right level of military spend?
I think we probably need more, but it's hard because we haven't given the Pentagon the level of significant scrutiny that I think it requires. Look at all these other departments of government, and they are being scrutinized for waste, for fraud, for abuse. Like, I don't know what everyone else's experience has been that has served in the military, but I saw more waste, more abuse, not a lot of fraud, but a lot of waste and abuse in the U.S. military. Let's root all that stuff out. And maybe we can use some of that to modernize. Moreover, we have to stop spending money on generations-old platforms that are of significantly less relevance in today's military. So I'm not on the Armed Services Committee, so I don't have great clarity. To some extent, all of us in Congress depend on people who are on these particular committees, but I am hoping that they can tell us how we transition out old platforms into new ones, how we can root out waste. And I've told Elon, I said, I can't wait till you get in the Pentagon. There may be an opportunity to turn the Pentagon into a triangle, right? That said, the world's more dangerous now than I think it's ever been in my lifetime, from Ukraine to Iran and throughout the Middle East to Taiwan and the South China Sea. U.S. has to stay involved. There's no other option. And we need to encourage others to get more involved, people who share our values, but we have to stay involved for a period of time. They're looking for our leadership, so that's going to take continued investment.
So one of the other big categories.
You didn't pin me down on a dollar figure because frankly, it's too early. They're going through this process right now.
But I think I agree. I think you need to make sure we're spending the right amount of money on the right things, and then we can talk about whether it's more or less. So another big topic of conversation here on these questions is immigration. And do you feel the administration is on the right pathway as it relates to immigration? Obviously, there's a lot of controversy around deportations, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
How do you feel about those issues?
I feel like deporting criminals should not be controversial. I feel like we.
No, please don't disrupt the senator.
I'll get to the
In the
question.
next breath, I was about to cover my due process base, so I feel like.
Immigrants deserve due process, yes or no?
Ma'am, we're going to ask you to leave if you continue to disrupt this event. The rest of us want to hear what he has to say. You can go outside and protest with the others if that's what you want to do.
Thanks,
We're
sir.
going to listen to the senator, please.
As I was saying, I feel like we need to deport criminals. I feel like if
How do you determine if they're a criminal?
Do we have a security person?
we're
that
going to violently agree. I'm not going to say it now. I'm not going to reward that by saying it. We're going to violently agree. I mean, how absurd is that? So And then I feel like after we have maintained a level of deterrence as it relates to our southern border, we should embark on legal immigration reform as well. It's been a long time since we've rationalized our public policy environment and thought about what workers we want to invite into our country to help grow our economy and play a meaningful and an important part in American life. And so my hope is we can go further than just securing the border, that we can also pivot to legal immigration reform and have what I think will be an important but obviously tough debate about what exactly that should look like. What should our guest worker programs look like? What should our student visa programs look like? High-skilled workers, are there opportunities to invite more of those into some of our left-behind communities to help grow those regional and local economies? I have a proposal to do this, which I offered with Senator Joe Manchin last year, and we'll be reintroducing some. So I think there are great opportunities. There's no question, however, that we are still in the process of trying to restore deterrence.
So I want to wrap up, and last question here. What's your hope? I see I get dismayed sometimes because I think we've turned into yelling at each other. We've turned into firing off tweets. We've turned into losing the understanding of the complexity of these issues.
Yes.
In our discussions. How do we get that back?
Listen, this is mostly outside of our wheelhouse. The federal government has some role in like pre-K through 14. So I think that's a piece of it, is making sure that we continue to improve our education system and our young people get used to wrestling with facts and beliefs that are uncomfortable to them, and they remain open to views that are contrary to their previously held views. I mean, we used to call it small L liberalism. You know, it's just like how knowledge evolves and how people learn. And I just see a lot of resistance to that. I see a lot of resistance to small L liberalism on many of our college campuses. And so we need to revitalize that. You try and do it through modeling positive behavior, but each of us can only do so much. But we can, I have a role to play. Our media, I think we need to return to an ethic that journalists are there and they have responsibilities. There's a journalistic and a professional ethic, not just to pursue their own self-interest, commercial interest, to feed people what's popular. We see that on some of our cable news channels. I can watch certain unnamed cable news channels. I could spend 2 hours and learn nothing. And it's just mindless drivel. And so it really handicaps us civically. I talk to people on a regular basis. I've had to start watching some of these news channels, and there's some that, on the left, some on the right, and I have to watch them periodically to know what sort of talking points and ideas I'm going to get from my constituents so that I can be prepared to counter them. They'll think I'm civically illiterate if I hadn't heard about a UFO or something. and so I need to be aware of that, and really good people, smart critical thinking people. But if you're exposed to enough of this garbage that aims to incite and entertain but not educate, then it really doesn't help you too much. So I think that's a broader change, and it's not just, I don't mean to pick on just certain journalists. It happens in all the professions. Attorneys, many attorneys are losing the ethic of like they're a member of a profession, and so they have responsibilities outside of just making money. And I don't know how we get all of that back, but I think each of us can it's an ethic.
Well, I guess I would say we start by having conversations like this.
Yeah.
I think there have to be more long-form discussions that people get to understand the nuances of it. We need to be ready to absorb that. So I just want to say thank you for taking your time. Look, I followed your career. I don't really agree with everything you do, but I agree with a lot of it. And I agree, what I really appreciate is having an Indiana representative in the United States Congress who is thoughtful, who is practical, and is working hard for the best of the American people. Now, we may not all agree with it, but I very much appreciate your approach. So thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Pete. Appreciate it. Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Good job. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, what a great discussion. I'm so proud that the Chamber is able to hear these candid, open discussions, especially at this point in time. It's really unprecedented times that we're living in. Just a huge shout out and thank you to Senator Young for visiting with us today and sharing your insights. Pete Yonkman, terrific job of moderating the discussion. Thanks again. Let's give both of these gentlemen a big round of applause, please. Got just a couple more things I want to say before we wrap up here in a minute. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. We value your support for the Chamber as we continue to work towards building a more vibrant and prosperous community for all of Bloomington and Monroe County through a thriving business sector. Obviously, that means we have to have strong relationships with our partners in government. And so again, thank you to Senator Young and all of our elected officials that we have the honor of working with. Also want to give a special shout out and thanks to the members of the media who joined us today. They're in the back of the room covering this important event. High quality, timely reporting of the issues that impact our communities and people is more important than ever. And so the Chamber appreciates your efforts to keep our businesses and residents informed. Don't forget about our business after hours on Thursday for Chamber members. That's going to be out at the Wilds Wedding and Event Center in Brown County. Join us. It'll be a terrific event. That'll be from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Wilds in Brown County. That concludes our event for this afternoon. Thank you all. Appreciate you for being here.